Just a few kind of housekeeping items first. At the end of this session, we do have these breakout session surveys. Please make sure to take the time to complete this at the end. Please, 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 we appreciate that. And in terms of how we're going to be handling the framework for today, each of our panelists will be speaking, and then we're going to open it up to questions from the group, 2 questions in between each panelist, and then at the end we'll leave some extra time for a longer Q&A session. So we want to make sure that we're getting through all of your questions and that we're answering them, but we also have a lot of material to cover. So what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about course redesign trends. Beverly's going to be speaking about the flipped classroom and some practices that she's put into place at Northern Arizona. And then Maeva and Kathy will be talking about using SAM to create personal learning paths and some different best practices that they've put in place in their schools. And then we'll be wrapping things up with Lucy, who's going to give us the 7 steps to create an online hybrid class. You do have handouts right now specific to Lucy's section of the panel, and we'll be having the full slide deck posted online after the event. So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Bev.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm not sure it's on. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? All right, great. Well, thank you all for coming. I feel like I should stand. I don't know, it's the teacher in me. I should stand up while I'm presenting. As a part of this panel, I've been asked to give sort of a broad brush overview of some of the trends that are currently happening in higher education course design. So what I'm going to do is start with a slide that highlights the 3 models that we're currently seeing across the country. My question for you, once I explain each one of them, is to have you tell me which of these your class most looks like. We've got the classic model, which is the students come to class, they listen to you lecture, they take notes, you assign homework, and then they go home, do the homework, and then come back the next time. We've got another lecture, they take notes, are given homework, go home, work their homework, and so on. That's classic. Blended is the best of in-person, in class, and the best of online. So you may have some lecture and activity in class. Students go and do online work, and then they come back the next time. You might discuss what they did online, but then there's a little more lecture, a little bit more information gathering. Then they go home and do some homework online, offline, whatever, and then come back. The flipped classroom is where we change the role of the instructor and what happens in the classroom completely. Instead of the instructor being the information deliverer and controller, the gateway, so to speak, for information delivery, where in a traditional classic setting, we would give the information to the student during class, and then they would go away and do homework on their own. In the flipped model, we're making the student the information gatherer. We give them the task of going online, doing the research, the reading, the information gathering, and then they come to class with what they've gathered, and we work the projects, the homeworks, the extensions of what we've asked them to do on their own. So we're flipping responsibilities here. We become a guide in the flipped environment rather than the sage on the stage or the controller of the information flow. Is that making sense? Okay. So asking the question now, how many of you are trying flipped or have done some flipped? Okay, a handful, kind of. How about blended? Okay. Anybody in a classic mode? A handful? Okay, so we're probably equally represented here. Very good. Okay. Why do I talk about all of these? Well, we know that one size does not fit all. Depending on the nature of our class, when we really think about it, we can't all go flipped because our content or our objectives don't support it. Or we can't blend because of certain reasons. Or we're doing classic because, you know, and we have our reasons for setting it out that way. What's important to understand is there's not one model that works for everybody that we can apply consistently across the board. So when we think about making a change, one of the ways I like to do this is to use an exercise that Eric Mazur, physicist at Harvard, presented in a webinar that I attended recently, and that is to think about what you do really well. And I'd like you to do that. Think for just a second. What do you do really, really well? All right, you got it in your mind? So shout it out. What do you do really well? What are you really great at? Wandering around and helping students. Okay, great. Anybody else? Nobody's participating. All right, I'm a really good cook. Okay, anybody else a good cook? Lucy?
I can juggle.
Okay, okay, all right. Or maybe you're really good at a sporting activity, or maybe you're really good at a game, or something like this. My question for you, though, is when you think about that thing you're really good at and you're too shy to share it with me, how did you get good at that? Did you listen to people talk to you the whole time about it? Or did you actually say, okay, I understand, you got a little bit of instruction, I understand it, I'll go do it, I'll go try it. That's what we're looking at when we're looking at some of the models that are evolving, the blended and the flipped, and particularly across campuses today. We're asking ourselves, how do we help our novice learners become good at our learning objectives? Is it listening to us lecture, or is it getting messy and getting hands-on? That's what I'm hoping you get out of this. Now, we all probably recognize Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller delivering his class lecture in his monotone, distinctive voice and getting to the anyone, and no one's responding. This is what we're trying to avoid, is sort of the blank looks on the face, the drooling on the desk. We want students that are engaged. Now at MIT, they issued monitors to MIT students and did a study of brain activity. And after a week of gathering data, here's what they discovered, that our brains are more active in sleep than they are in class. What does that tell you about students coming to class and just simply sitting there and listening to us as we talk? They might look more like this, right? With the teacher, wah, 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 wah. So, as we look at some of the trends, we're really looking at ways to perk this student up, to get rid of the monotone, anyone kind of an environment, and really engage our students. So when we look to blended, we're looking at taking the best of what we do in person, what's really working in person with our students, what's working online. So we use Emerge, a digital textbook product that has both concepts and skills in it. Most of that, the students can do the reading online outside of class time. They can do the video project work on their own online outside of class time. So we don't lecture over any of that because they can information gather that and use the best of the online. And then when they come to class, we've got a different scenario going on. So we bring in current events. We talk about how the topic relates to that current event. We do a summary wrap-up of muddiest points. We have an in-class quiz that we do. Those are things that are great in person. Those are all leading to great student success for us. We've been able to increase our student success to over 80% to 85% of our students are achieving grades of A, B, and C. And our university is very pleased with that. We used to have much lower rates of success, but we're now seeing much greater success with our blended model. This semester, some of us are actually flipping our class, where we're no longer doing the lecturing. The students have greater responsibility for the information gathering, the reading of their online materials, the project work, and meeting the deadlines outside of class. And so our class time is devoted entirely to projects, to current events, discussion, extension of what they've learned online, without my guidance during class time for what they should have learned, which is what the blended model was doing for us. Our student success right now is encouraging with our mid-semester grades. A third of my students have A's in the class, 25% have B's, and another 22% have C's. So I've only got about 15% or so down in the danger zone that require my attention. The rest of them are doing just fine with the model. So that trend is happening more and more across the country as educators like you are thinking about how can I best deliver this so I can engage my students and not see them dropping down into the danger zone, but rather see them retained and succeeding with the material. So for you, in the 2 minutes I know I have left, some questions as you think about the course design models. And if your model that you're currently using, whether it's classic, blended, or flipped, isn't working for you, you might ask yourself some questions here. What about your students? How do they see themselves? Are they learners? Are they willing to work for your learning outcomes? Do they know what those are, first of all? How are we communicating those? Are they willing to work for that? Do they see their role? We have a student responsibility statement we give our students, so they understand their role as learners and what that means to be engaged in the class. And so they need to understand their role and their success. And then for our part, when we think about changing, are we viewing ourselves as coaches or guides? When we first proposed the flipped model, we have faculty that have been very successful at being lecturers, information deliverers. Now we're asking them to take on a different role. You're now stepping aside and guiding, coaching. But the beauty of that is you get to help the students that really need the help more, because those that can take it and run with it, that don't need you, you don't have to be present with them. You can work with those that are the ones that are at risk, that really do need you. Personality-wise, I think with any new model, we need to be willing to try something new. How many of you have gone out on a limb at some point in your educational career, tried something new? You weren't sure it was going to work, right? A little bit of the butterflies. But did it turn out okay? Yeah, most times it does. What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work, and you say, okay, that was an experiment, didn't quite go the way we wanted, but we learned something from this. We've actually talked with our administration about our flipped classroom, about having the necessary technology tools, the support that we need, and when it comes time for evaluations, if I have a class that didn't quite work with the flipped model, that I don't personally get dinged for taking a risk and trying something innovative. And so we had to talk about evaluations for faculty so that we remove that risk point for everybody. So those are some considerations that we've taken into play that I think are important in the process of looking at the model that works best for you. How much risk are you willing to take, and is your administrative supportive of that and willing to come alongside you and partner with you, or are you going to be left hanging, which I hope nobody has had that unfortunate thing happen to them. Okay, so that was a sprint.
Time for questions. Exactly, it is. We're trying to cram a lot of material into a little bit of time. So any questions for Beverly? We can open it up right now to 2 questions, and then we'll have time at the end, hopefully at the end, for more questions. Yep?
So did you... It was. Did you use Emerge for both the flipped classroom and the blended?
Yes. Yes, we're using Emerge in our blended classes right now. We've got 15 sections a semester, and 13 of them this semester are continuing to use the Emerge product, and we use SAM projects. And then our flipped class is also using Emerge with SAM projects. Yes.
I was going to say, I flipped my class, but what I found is we have an hour and 15 minutes of class time, and I have to work harder to make sure that I'm making good value out of that hour and 15 minutes, because I'm not lecturing, but what are the students doing during that time to get value out of that?
That's a great comment, because you have to be a lot more active. And what I'm finding, too, with the flipped classroom, because I'm not lecturing where I've assumed these are the sticky points, because I've been teaching this forever and I know where students get hung up, they're bringing that to class, and as we work on projects and they start reporting back to the class for their project, I'll give you an example. When we finish the hardware module concepts, in class, we have a project to configure a new computer for an incoming student at the university. So the students have to pick a major. They have to figure out what that student's going to be doing in that major, what software they need, communication technology, and all of that. And each, we divide them into teams. They have their same team the whole semester. And so they work with their team. They go online. They're shopping Best Buy. They're saying, oh, no, we should build a computer. So they're debating all of this. But then they have to get up and talk about what they eventually came up with, how much money they spent, why, and defend their position. And so I have to be ready to ask questions about these unknown outcomes. Because one student group thought for a business student, they needed to have an iPad mini, and that would be sufficient for everything they would ever need to do as a business student in 4 years. Can you imagine? And so I had to be ready to probe them. I had to know enough about the iPad mini, first of all, to be able to say, well, what about using office skills? And what about this? And what about that? And the student group said, oh, well, we'll have them come into the lab for that. So that was their way of handling it, but they just wanted the mini. And then I had another student group want to spend $15,000 because they're a photography major, and they bought all this high-end equipment. But they justified every piece of it. So it was good because the rest of the class then got to learn about that. So anyway, so that's a little bit on that. Okay. Yeah, but you're right. It does put more on you to have to be ready, kind of impromptu, to be able to manage what's happening, because it can be chaotic and messy. It can be. But I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'd rather we have some fun with it, so, rather than having them asleep and drooling. Yeah.
Beats the alternative.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Beverly. That was wonderful. And we're going to segue now, and Kathy is going to talk to us about how she's created a personalized learning model using SAM, and specifically SAMPath.
Hi. I just wanted to give you a little background that I'm from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and we are a metropolitan university, and that means that we get a wide diversity of students. Our students come to us as beaming little freshmen that come in at 18 years old, knowing and owning the world, and then we have the adults that come in scared to death to touch the mouse and have any idea what a computer is. We hold our class online. So these students that really have no knowledge are frightened, not knowing where to start, but we soon get them up to speed. We're in the computer science and engineering department, so it's a technical approach that we take as opposed to a business approach, but I think our business classes are soon going to be rolled into us. I wanted to talk to you about how my classes form so that you'll get an idea of what I do. We use SAMPath, and we use it for all of our skills assessment. We also use SAM exams currently to do our concepts. We teach one chapter of Windows. Most of them come in with some knowledge of Windows, so they're ready to go. We teach 4 chapters of Word, 4 of Excel, 2 of Access, and 2 of PowerPoint. So they don't get as much access. We used to do 4 chapters, but we found that we're really not building Access programmers, so we felt like 2 is enough to expose them. And then we do about 7 chapters of the concepts so that they have a good basis for making intelligent decisions at the end. I know this is difficult to read, but we lay out up front exactly how many points each part of their assessment is going to count and break it up as such. That way, at the beginning of the semester, they have a good idea of exactly what percent of their total grade each thing is going to count, and when the deadlines are. Now, what we have tried to do for the skills assessment is to allow them to move as fast as they can, as comfortable as they want. We don't allow them to kill themselves by not doing anything until the last minute. So where on the skills set, they are able, which is the top portion, they are able to move ahead, and they could have completed every single test, pre and post test, 1 week into class if they wanted to. We don't do that with the concepts because we want them to feel like they're a part of a class, and they're required to do some discussion questions. And if they move ahead, then they forget even to go back into the system and do it. Now, to be honest, we don't find many students moving very far ahead. They probably, like your students, are procrastinators, and it's more a reminder, hey, you've got something due. When we're talking about the concepts, how we start off here is to simply say you've got 3 things that you have to do. First of all, you have to read the textbook. We expect the students to read that on their own. It's an ebook that we currently have buried within it comes with us through their BlackBerry. We are going to move all of this into SAM probably in the fall. We have, after that, they can take an exam. They can go through any of with it being an ebook, they have all the options to do all the handy study guides that are available through the ebook. But not required, no grades are given for that. But then they come in and they have to take the test. It's a multiple choice test on the concepts. And then they have to do discussion questions. They're due every couple of weeks. They have a certain number, a length of them to make sure we don't get a lot of, oh, I agree, that's good, and move on and consider that a discussion. Where we feel like our real gain is in our office design skills portion. I don't know, how many of your students think they already know Office? Yeah. Ours too. So that became such an issue that all we heard was complaint, why do I have to take this stupid course? I already know it. So we start off with a pretest. And if they already know it, we give them credit for already knowing it, and they're through. If they can make a good grade when they take that pretest, that's the test they take, that's the grade they get, and they're ready to go, and we don't require them to do anything more. That way they are able to move at their own pace, and that way they don't have to do a repetition and do coursework that they really probably don't need. It's recognizing the fact that they do come to us with a variety of skills. However, if they miss questions on the pretest, then they go into the SAM training. And we use SAM training only on those questions that they missed. Now, if you have used SAM training, you know that you have to complete all of the training before you can move to the post-test. So once they've completed the training, then they move to the post-test, and they take that. They get no credit for the training, but they can't move on until they've done it. So you know that you're forcing them to do the work. Like I said, it's quasi-self-paced. They do have due dates, but they can move ahead and get it all done very early if they choose to. We do provide those due dates simply to keep the students on task and keep them from killing themselves by procrastinating. I wanted to tell you some results. And this table may look a little bit fuzzy, but this is Word. Probably where most students feel like they know the most. We give the pretest, and as you can tell, we had 13% of ours had a grade of 90 or above. 21% that took it had a grade of 80 or above, but more importantly, 44% basically failed the pretest. Now, does it work? And the answer is, oh yes, if they will do it. You notice that when we move up, all but 11%, or all but 12% ended up passing the Word portion at the end. And this holds true throughout. I use Word because that's the one they think they know all of. All but 12% passed. And of the 12% that didn't pass, it was because 11% of them did not, for some reason or another, in their infinite wisdom, choose to take the post-test. So it works. They are passing. They are learning the skills that they need. It's very, it works.
Now we're going to move right over to Maeva. Thank you so much, Kathy. And she also uses SAM to redesign her computer literacy course, but does it in a slightly different, unique way from Kathy. We're going to hold questions to the end of the SAM version, then we'll open it up for 2 questions. Sorry.
I didn't realize this when Kathy and I started. We got on the same panel, but I'm actually only about 45 minutes northeast of Kathy in Lee University, which is a private Christian school. So in Cleveland, Tennessee, my students are somewhat different from hers, but we ended up with very similar results on our pre-post test. And so your university may be totally different, or your two-year school may be totally different, but we're finding across the board that we're getting similar pre-test, post-test scores, that students still don't know things as much as they think they do. They come and they think that they are literate. They think they know everything because they can do Facebook, they can do Twitter, they're good at email, they're good at searching. But literally the class was not meeting what needed to be done, and students complained. Why am I having to do this? Why am I having to do these assignments? This is boring, this is too much. We also had a lot of problems with part-time faculty teaching it one way versus what we thought that they should be doing it. So we were not getting a consistent across the board teaching. So we determined that we needed to do something totally different, and so we decided that we would go to SAM as well. And I'm in my third year. I did a pilot test the first year, and then the last 2 years we have implemented it. This particular course is only 2 credits. We've fought for it for several years to maintain it in our core at the university, because we keep getting from administrators that the kids don't need it, they don't need it, they don't need it. However, we keep telling them they're not passing pre-test, so they do need it. They don't know, they may know technology or they may know how to Facebook, but they don't know how to do this productivity software, and that's what they need. We are doing SAM. We actually went to a cookie cutter type class in that I'm the administrator. I create with input from all of my part-time faculty, and based on some standards that we have across the board, we create sections in SAM, online class, and then cookie cutter a copy straight across. So everybody's getting the same thing. And then our part-time faculty are teaching it. We do have larger sections, as you can see. It's 50 students. However, we are not requiring a lot of discussions in this. What we are requiring is for them to learn the skills. It's a skill-based course is what it is. And so we are actually, we offer an orientation the first day of class on campus so that they can come and we can tell them what the class is all about. We do offer that. We'll give them a few points extra credit if they come and attend it. We also require them to do pre-tests the first 2 weeks in the lab. That's the only thing they have to do in the lab. They can do it at their own time frame. We give them a schedule, come into the lab. We have people that will handhold them through all of that so that it gets them into taking an online class. Now, obviously, this presents some interesting things if I had distant students, but so far we have created this for our on-campus students to do it online so that we can help them. We would have to redo a portion of it if it was going to be for distant students at this point. We also offer tutoring labs with TAs, because we do have 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds that do not feel comfortable without having that person face-to-face. So we have offered TAs in the lab that can help them get through whatever it is that they need to do. We do ours a little bit differently. We offer pre-tests at the very beginning of the semester on every section, all 4 sections, concepts, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. If they pass that comprehensive pre-test with an 80+, we will allow them to pass that section or all the sections. So far, we only have about 1 or 2 people a semester. Now, we're having 400 a semester that take the class. We are only having 1 or 2 a semester that actually pass everything. And it's usually Excel that catches them, but they also don't, less of them know the software than they think they do. And so we'll have about half of them will pass PowerPoint, maybe a third will pass Word, but usually there's only a very small handful that will actually pass Excel. These are all the things that we actually offer. We require them to do projects, the hands-on portion of it inside the software. So we do deal with the issues in SAM with the Mac versus the non-Mac software, because Mac, obviously, I'm very excited about the 2013 version of SAM because it is going to deal with some of those issues. Hopefully we will have less problems with that.
You will. Less problems. We're good.
This is the results that we've come up. The school has bought in with this because less faculty, obviously. which means that they did agree to pay for my TAs. They also perceive us as listening to the students. The students said they don't like this class. Why am I having to do it? So we're saying, okay, we'll see. We'll test you. We'll test you up front. Do you know it? Then you don't have to do it. But if you don't know it, then you do have to do it. And so our enrollment increased immediately from kids waiting to their last semester to take the class thinking that they already knew it, to where we went from like 250 the first semester we did this to 400 in the spring, which I never had more in the spring than I did in the fall. But this time it went immediately up, and it's stayed that way for 3 semesters now. And my advisors across campus, the one particular advisor was a history advisor, and he said, when I come in and tell them they have to do the 100 class, which is my CIS 100, he said they're like, oh, okay. Whereas used to, when he advised them and told them, don't forget you have to take the computer literacy class, they were like, oh my gosh, do I have to take that? So the students are perceiving it. They've heard the rumbles that they pre-test you. If you know it, you don't have to do it. If you don't know it, then you just learn something. And so it's been a good thing. If you pass it, fewer now complain about SAM picking us because they realize they don't know it, and so they're just having to deal with it. And this is some of my data, which is very interesting because it goes along with Kathy's as well. If you notice, I've circled the greater than or equal to the 80%, but if you look at the last one or the very bottom one, the less than 600, 32% didn't pass the pretest with a 60. But when we did the post-test, it was less than 1% that made less than a 60. So if you're talking about looking at the greater than 80%, we had less than 20% passed it at the very beginning. But when they did their post-test, almost 96% of them that actually took it. Now the numbers don't agree. This was over 3 semesters, 935 to 703, but you got to remember we had probably 150 that actually passed it at the beginning that never took the post-test. So when you put the two together, that's a tremendous amount that actually are passing it.
Great. Thank you so much, Mava. And we've got, like I said, we are going to be posting the full slide deck. And in the full slide deck, we have Mava's data from across all applications. And I believe we have Kathy's as well across all applications.
I just did.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay. Well, we've got a fuller set of data, too, for you to have as a point of reference. And I am, in the interest of time, just because we are running so close to the edge, and luckily we have a break at the end of this, but I want to make sure that we make time for Lucy, who's going to be talking about the 7 steps to creating an online. Yep, absolutely.
And I don't need that.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lucy. I'm loud.
Oh, no, you need it for the video because they're videoing us.
Not loud enough.
No, you're loud enough. Yeah, I'm saying that in a nice way.
I have this difficult, long last name, Russian last name, Parakovnik. So everybody calls me Lucy Parker, and my email is very easy, lucy@csun.edu. Live in sunny Southern California, so easy to remember. You know, I'm number 4 speaker, and I'm very mindful of the fact that it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm very mindful of the fact that my 26 slides were squished down to 10, and I only have less than 10 minutes to demo it. And I'm very mindful of the fact that you guys are falling asleep. So with Amanda's permission, I'm going to flip the classroom, and with the spirit of connectiveness, mindfulness that we were listening to earlier on today, and compassion. I'd like to ask everyone to get up for a moment, please. If you would all get up for a moment. And let's just breathe, like 2 nice deep breaths. We're doing a yoga pose. Yeah, roll those shoulders. Let's roll those shoulders. I don't know, I'm be wearing my high heels the whole day. I don't know if you can take your shoes off. And let's just do a little tree pose like that. Can you do that? Come on, try. See if you're balanced. Come on now. Yes, stretch it. Wonderful stretch. Are we balanced today? Are we balanced today? I know I'm killing the minute, but I think it was just a very hard act to follow with the ladies. And I thought, let's just wake up. All right, and I'm actually giving you more than you bargained for. You're probably sitting on handouts that says 7 steps, and I'm giving you more because I added a 0 step, so you're getting 8 steps. All right. Always feel students, make students feel like they're getting more than they asked for, right? They're more than they paid for. So going into, and the irony of the whole thing is I'm not teaching any online class at all. My colleague Cecile and I attended a 2 weeks long summer institute last week about online and course redesign. And as of now, we have made a conscious decision not to go online, and we are debating about hybrid. We're still doing face-to-face. But because we're using all this LMS and all the products, it's really kind of like hybrid, but we're still meeting them twice a week. So the step 0, I think we were talking about the week 0. Just make sure that, like, we give out a student readiness survey. Might be a good idea to actually take the survey yourselves if you're ready. And, you know, just give them a quick poll. Make sure that if your campus has a web drive, or if you're using SkyDrive or Dropbox, that they know what that is, that they've logged on into it, that they, you know, give them instructions. That's before you start the course, that they actually start setting things up. And there are tons of stuff online, tips on how to become a successful you know, online learner. So go Google all this stuff, put it online for them before you actually meet with them. Moving on to step 1, the course overview and introduction. I think it's, if you get all of this done in the beginning, it's maybe a lot of work in the beginning, but you're really clearing yourself, and even with the face-to-face class, you know, giving them very clear instructions how to get started. You know, where everything is, where they can, you know, where they can get stuff, where, you know, how the course format is, if, you know, how many lectures you have, how many assignments you have, what's the purpose of the course, your complete information. My colleague, Cecile, actually came up with this cartoon-like website, which is called Extra Normal. So try that, go there. It's like, it's a cartoon version of you talking to the class. That way you can introduce yourself to the class. Or yesterday, some instructor was talking about Animoto. So maybe you just want to use that and introduce yourself to the class. Some people think I'm crazy to give my cell phone number to my students. I actually do that. And it comes with a big warning, like do not use, because you'll be penalized if it's just being used casually. And nobody calls me. I actually had 1 phone call, which was emergency. So outline all the etiquette expectations, you know, how you want your emails, how you want them to contact you, what are the deadlines, you know, because this being a 24/7 environment, and I'm a night owl, you know, I stay up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and I see students working at that time. But, you know, a lot of people are not. So tell them, and, you know, and they say, I sent you an email like 2:30 a.m., and it's 8 a.m., and they want an answer. So, you know, just make sure that, okay, answers are within 24 hours or whatever. Whatever is your mode, outline it. Tell them about integrity policies, you know, cheating, plagiarism in your institute. And of course, within SAM, there are all these integrity violations. So tell them, because they don't know and they're going to come with all kinds of excuses. And any prereq that they need, any calendar of due dates. So really sit down and think about the whole, you know, global thing. Step 2. Actually, go back for a sec. That's just, we use Moodle, for instance, and oh, another thing, you want to put like several versions of the same thing, like with the syllabus, you know, put a book format and a visual format. So it actually doesn't matter if you're repeating yourself. Maybe it's actually a good thing to repeat yourself. You know, it doesn't hurt, several different places on your LMS, and put all the links and everything to whether, you know, whether it's other books website or online study guides or quizzes or whatnot. Going on to step 2, oh gosh, I spent 200 hours on my SLOs. I don't know if you've done that. And after wanting to do course redesign, we know in that summer institute I was telling you about, we just realized that student learning outcomes are very important to be, you know, not just bunch of bulleted points, but really, are we achieving, the appropriate end results? Are they varied? Are they integrated with the assessment and all that? And make sure your assessment measures your SLOs. Our campus is very, very tough about that. And provide very clear grading policies about late work, scaling, the weight of your assignments, and provide a lot of feedback. I think that's very important in any kind of class. Give students multiple opportunities to reassess their success. Maybe it's a survey, maybe it's a forum, maybe it's some blogs or peer review. So just give them a lot of chances to self-check their progress. Step 3 is we're talking about different texts. I give them about 7 books. We actually have about 6 or 7 books. But tell them whether the course material is required or recommended. Because they come to you, is it really important I should have this book? Yeah. Or maybe not really so much, because they can find a lot of that stuff online as well. So give them options where to buy the book, how they can actually get value for the money maybe online. A student of mine actually went on eBay one time and bought 1 book for $90, whereas my 7 books we sell for $140. So he says, oh, my mom did that for me. So, moms don't always do the best when it comes to getting best deals. But don't over-rely on text is my policy, with all the PowerPoints and all the videos on YouTube and audios and everything else. I think we can mix and match. And please cite all your materials, all your images and videos and websites. Going on to step 4, as for community and interaction, again, please give your students opportunities to introduce themselves. They love doing that, maybe again by using Animoto. Again, provide a lot of tips. I'm sure your campus has all these online learner tips, or you can find it online again. Make your course very easy to navigate and interact. So especially if you're giving any group work, I think the challenge on online is how on earth do you give group work? So I think if you make your rules very clear and their roles very clear, and put how frequent they need to get back to you and what is their length of their assignment and the timeliness, and put some benchmarks in there, I think they can actually go and do some good group work. And please explain your role in the class, because again, sometimes they expect too much of you, to be there, to be present, and especially when it comes to your response time and to your feedback. Sometimes their expectations are not so reasonable. Step 5, our campuses now have all these wonderful technologies, so make sure they know where and how to access all your campus technologies, the whole idea is to use the tools to engage them and to promote active learning. It's not so many tools that use, but it could be really 1 or 2 tools that they use and and they know. So don't get overwhelmed with technology. I think that's a very easy thing to do. And make sure that you have so many different acceptable formats, that you can accept homework. Step 6, how are we doing with time? Good?
We're doing well.
We're doing good? I'm not talking too fast? All right. Then we can do question and answer. Well, in Cal State Northridge that I work out of, we have, IT help desk. We have a huge library. We have a writing center. We have online tutoring. So, guide them to all these resources on your campus. And then, of course, places like lynda.com, for getting your own information. And, advising services, counseling. So please make sure that you have all that outlined and, where they go and who they can see. I get a lot of students coming mid-semester, even in a face-to-face, saying that their software doesn't work, right? They just did this and that doesn't work, or the hardware, they had a crash or they had a virus. So you want to make sure that they know where to go, otherwise they'll be falling behind. And the final step, again in California, we want to provide an ADA compliance statement and the LMS accessibility statement, and make sure you have links to your campus disability services, help the student maybe that has a registered disability. And we have a huge universal design center at CSUN. Again, I don't know if you have that on your campus or not, but again, make all those file formats accessible. My brother happens to be colorblind, and I know a lot of students just really don't even realize they're colorblind until they see, you know, some backgrounds and some colors, and you actually see it happening with PowerPoint presentations. You know how many colors don't come out the way they were supposed to come out and all that. So be conscious about the colors that you use, about the background to use. And recently I learned that a lot of my Arab students don't like the use of the color red a lot. You know, red is just a very holy color. So, you know, if they're Japanese, if they're Middle Eastern student, you know, if they're this or that, so be mindful. Again, that use mindful, I think was a wonderful word that I learned this week. And if you're putting a text or a figure or a picture, make sure you put an alternate text tags next to them, and especially if you're using Web 2.0, social networking or any technology like that, make sure that all the tools are accessible. And finally, just some personal thoughts, just like in a face-to-face class, you've got students with all kinds of learning styles, all kinds of personalities, right? And they're online as well. So they're the shy ones, and they're the impatient ones, the ones that do their homework, you know, after midnight. So we're dealing with this virtual environment that's synchronous time limit and async time delays. So I really think that online teaching is not for every instructor, and also online taking a class is not for every student. So before you barge into doing an online class, if the choice is given to you, you really want to make a conscious decision. It is something you like to do, and I think for students as well. And a lot of the initial posting and materials is time consuming, could take hours and hours, but I think once you set all that up, and I'm sure my colleagues agree, that later on any time lost will be recovered with ongoing use. So good luck, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
Lucy.
much.
That was great. And I know we are right up against a break, and I apologize because I said that there would be time for questions at the end. And obviously we're out of time, but we are against a break. So please come up if you do have questions. We'd love to talk to you. Thank you.